Right now we're going into one of the most difficult times for your lawn during the season. I get a lot of questions and emails from people during this time saying, what's going on with my yard? Is there something wrong with it? Is there anything I can do to prevent what's happening right now? So we're going to go over those details today. Of course, we're talking about the seed head stage. Of course, grass is a living plant, so there's a stage here where it wants to reproduce and put out seed heads on top of the lawn. This is confusing for a lot of people because they don't see this any other time of the year, and so sometimes they also get concerned as to what might be going on. Is there something wrong? But this is a natural thing that happens every season, and I want to show you some examples today and talk about why this is difficult for your lawn and a few things that you might be able to do to kind of combat this as much as possible. So first and foremost, one of the reasons that it's a difficult time is that it is growing like crazy during this stage. So really here, I've been talking about this season, but we've hit the spring flush now. So I'm mowing as much as I possibly can, and it still seems like day after day, I could probably even mow twice a day on some areas and it wouldn't be enough. So you just have to do your best during this stage. I know it's going to be difficult for some of you who can only get to mowing maybe once a week, maybe even 10 days or so. It's going to be pretty difficult during this stage. So just do your best. Try to keep up with it as much as you can. The other thing that's difficult because of that and that seed head that comes out is that it creates a really stocky plant. And so instead of being a nice lush and soft leaf that the grass usually has, these stocky pieces come out and they're difficult to mow. They dull your blades quickly, and then once you do mow them off, they just don't mow very well. So it ends up looking pretty bad during this stage too in a lot of cases. I'm looking at the fringe of this ryegrass plot here, and some of this grass on the edge is getting a lot taller. I haven't been mowing it consistently, so this stuff is getting a lot more of the seed heads on here. And I'll take one of these stocky plants out and show you. This is a stemmy piece that's really hard to cut through. Of course, you have your leaf up here, and this is nice and soft and able to be mowed well, but this plant becomes pretty difficult to cut. What I noticed last year, especially in ryegrass, and we're going to talk about different types of grass today. This is not specific to ryegrass or specific to a certain grass type, but some of these are worse than others. And if you let ryegrass get pretty tall, I found last year, this can really be a problem in ryegrass. It creates a lot of these stems. They don't mow very well, and last year it lasted a long time into my summer season, and eventually, I think it was about early August, got so tired of how brown and nasty it looked with those stems that I pretty much scalped off the grass and I let it start to recover, even though it was probably the worst time of year to do that. But I kind of just wanted to experiment with that and see what was going to happen, and actually the recovery happened pretty well because I went in, tried to scalp off as much as those remaining stems were there and let the leaf come back out. And that did work. So I'm going to see this season if on this grass I can keep mowing it consistently a little lower, about 1.5 inches. And I want to see if I can keep these at bay. When I'm at my low cut turf, so I'm cutting under 1 inch, I never saw as many seed head problems or stocky problems. It will still happen, but also because you're mowing so consistently on stuff like that, pretty much every other day, sometimes during the spring flush, every day if you're cutting under 1 inch just to keep up with the growth, then I did not see that issue. The taller that the grass got, the more issue I had with these stocky plants. Same exact thing going on my fescue here. You can see these are really tough to cut through. This is really strong. That stem right there is very difficult to cut through. So again, not something that's just happening to a certain grass type, but you can see just how difficult this is. It's not very nice to walk on right now either, because of all those stemmy plants. This is my low-cut bluegrass plot, and I will show you a shot. I just mowed this, so you will not see as many of the seed heads because they're so low, and I mowed most of them off. You will see here, I'll pick out a piece, another stemmy piece, got seed heads already started on here. Even on this low-cut stuff here, starting to see a lot of the seed heads form on top of here. What can you do to try to combat this during this time frame? Well, it's going to last here for a few weeks at least. It just depends on the grass type, how much it transitions out of that or how quickly it does. So something you can do is just keep mowing as much as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, I know some of you can't get to this as often maybe as you would like to, but the more that you continue to mow off those seeds, the more that it's going to tell the plant, okay, we got to get out of this stage now. We're not actually getting those seeds to come out, so we're going to get out of this phase and we're going to go back to normal. So mow as often as you can and try to do it that way. Second thing would be to make sure you continue to sharpen your blades. As I mentioned, this is going to dull up your blades pretty quickly. So especially during this stage, you're going to have better results on cutting that real stemmy plant with as sharp a blade as possible. So keep sharpening your blade frequently during this stage if you can. And if you don't know how to do that yourself, Very easy way to do that. I will link a video right here on how you can do the sharpening yourself and save yourself some money that way. So I see this a lot too, where people say, I'm just gonna let this all go to seed then, and it'll just seed my yard and I'll just let that happen. Well, when I was out in Oregon, where my grass seed comes from, where most of the grass seed that's sent all around the world comes from, in case you haven't seen that series of videos, I would definitely recommend checking it out. You get a behind the scenes look at how grass seed is in the field, how it comes out, all of that stuff. But what I learned out there is that the plants need more room. They're not planted as close together because you're not mowing them like that. Seed production is a lot different than your normal yard, and so it needs the proper conditions. That's why it grows so well, specifically out in Oregon. You need that space in between the plant. You need to let it get to full maturity. Lots of different things go into it so that they can actually get that seed off of there and get it into bags and ship it to you. Check out that video series if you want to learn more. So the other thing is, don't get too frustrated by this stage. Everybody is dealing with the same thing pretty much in your area around the same time frame. So make sure to remember you're not alone in that. After you get through this stage and the spring flush, be a good time to think about a fertilizer app for cool season lawns. It spent a lot of energy trying to get this top growth going, trying to get those seed heads going. So after that is the time frame going into the summer. Here it's usually around Memorial Day-ish, but remember, we can't necessarily go by the calendar all the time. And if you're doing a granular program at that point, just a couple of applications a year, that would be when you want to get an application down to get some nutrients back in the plant and get it through the summertime. If you're doing more of a spoon feeding program, you can do the exact same thing, get your fertilizer going, but you'll continue that with your low doses through the summertime too. And wondering what's going on with your yard, seeing those seed heads where it's not mowing that well, that's probably the stage that it's at right now. It'll eventually get out of that and you'll be back to normal. I hope that helped you understand a little more about the process today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.